I'm smelly? We're always drinking on the show.
Anyone is fine.
Yeah, anyone. Watermelon sounds good. Anyone, watermelon.
You always say that. So you're getting a tangerine.
Okay.
Actually, I want tangerine.
All right, I'm gonna start. Welcome everyone to our episode 4 of BoriBros. My name is Dan.
And my name is Kyle.
And I'm Jen.
For those of you who are new here, can you introduce yourself, Jenn?
Hello, I'm Jen. I was on the last podcast episode as well. I am Kyle's current girlfriend.
You keep saying current.
Is it gonna
Current.
change?
It's a continuation of last time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still fun employed.
Yeah.
That's it.
So for the context, a couple weeks ago on our first episode, actually, Kyle had told us about his perspective of how he met Jenn and decided to move to New York.
I guess as I was swiping, I saw this girl and then I was like, oh, she's cute. Swipe. Little did I know that was going to be my next girlfriend.
So we brought Jenn today to talk about how she thought of those initial days when she first met Kyle and a couple other questions.
Couple other couple.
And other questions as well that our viewers actually provided for us.
I am here to expose the truth.
Did you watch our first episode?
I did.
Okay, so you know what the stories that he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in our first episode, he talked about how you guys met on Tinder and then he invited you to the work event and things like that. Can you give us a little brief or like your perspective of those days
I can.
and how you thought about him?
Oh no, here we go.
Let's expose Kyle.
Here we go.
Okay. A little bit of background context. Kyle was like my first dating app date ever. So I was kind of like nervous and hesitant about dating apps just because I get nervous around strangers. But part of the reason why I agreed to see Kyle was because it said he was only in New York for a little bit. And I assumed because Hawaii is so far away, if the date is really bad, I'll never see him again. So I was like, why not? Also, I thought he was like pretty cute.
Pretty cute.
Yeah.
I do want to see the kind of pictures that he
I have screenshots, so
Oh.
I'll share.
fully exposed.
She
right
has
now.
some messages too, I think.
Yeah, I have the initial messages. His profile was like very sad boy. Like all his pictures were like very stoic in a field, or like in a forest. And then one of the pictures I found out later was like a photo his ex took of him.
Oof.
But it's one of the
Sorry.
photos that I liked, that I like really liked when I saw his profile. So that's some tea.
Which photo was it?
I think it was like the look back one. You were wearing like a green jacket.
Oh yeah. That was like one of the first photos of myself on a film camera.
What was the first message that you sent to her? Like you didn't just say like, do you want to come to work event, right?
She had a picture of like a film camera
Okay.
on one of her pictures, and I thought that film camera looked really cool and vintage. So I kind of used that as a way to talk to her.
He
I was like, what
said-
kind of camera is that?
He said, quote, wait, did you say that? Okay, sorry. Did you say what kind of camera is that? Or you're like, what, that's a gem? What a gem?
That's what I said, yeah.
So like, what a gem? Or something like that. What kind of camera is it?
No, I asked what kind of camera it was, and then she told me it was her grandpa's old camera, and then I was like, what a gem.
How did you respond to that?
I was like, thanks.
So how does the conversation go on from there too?
I think he was pretty good at initiating. And then I think right after he was like, oh, like I'm only here for a little bit. Do you want to like meet up? And I was like, sure. So this part of the story, I think he forgot, but we were originally supposed to meet for coffee first. And then like a day before I was supposed to meet up with him for coffee, he like hit me with, oh, my company's having a party. Do you want to come by? And then I'm very like a type A person. Like I have to know my plans in advance and I hate like spontaneity. And so my initial reaction was like, no, I'm not going. Like, or like, I didn't say that, but in my head, I was like, no, I'm not going. I was actually moving out of the apartment I was living with Erica in.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, oh, like if that ends early enough, I'll stop by. But also there's a chance that I might not. So it at least gave me a legit reason if I decided to not go. But then my roommates convinced me that I should. And they basically came with me too. Because I was like, I'm not going unless you're coming with me, thinking that they would say, oh, I'm not going. But then they're like, yeah, let's go. And so I couldn't really back out of it.
Gotcha.
And I wish Erica was here to like tell you how I was leading up to the date, because I was like moving out of my old apartment with her, right? I was literally gagging the whole time because like when I get anxious, I gag. And I literally bought like a shot of Jack Daniels right before and just like threw it back. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So then fast forward, and this is what the part that Kyle shared. So I show up with my roommates to the hotel where his company's party was. And so I'm in the lobby, and like where he is, there's like a few steps.
They're big steps, okay?
They're like those big like lobby steps.
Okay.
And then I see him like at the top, and I like look up like, oh, there he is. And then I think that's when he saw me too. And
wait, hold up. Was this the first time meeting each other?
yeah, this is the first moment we like saw each other in person.
Okay.
I like to say he hippity hopped down.
Kind of like a rabbit, I guess.
Yeah, like skipped a few steps, like was very, you could tell he was very jolly coming down, and I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, he must have been happy.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, he was excited.
A little too happy, I think.
And then so he comes up to me and my roommates, which was good up to that point. But the thing is, he goes and hugs my roommates first, and I was thinking he would greet me first because I am the date.
Yeah.
But he goes and hugs my 2 other roommates first and then hugs me last. So during that small encounter, I was thinking like, okay, either one, he saw me in person and was not interested, or he found like one of my roommates more attractive and he's not into this date anymore. Like
I was
from the
just being
get-go.
cordial. Like I wanted to make sure that, you know, oh, hey, like
Jen.
I was just like, huh? Or I also thought like, is he confused on who his date is?
No.
And so he's just hugging everyone.
All right, which one of you is it?
It
Yeah.
has to be one of these 3.
After that, my roommates did their own thing, and then we kind of went off to the side. And I think this part, like Kyle described pretty accurately. Like we were just talking, and the conversation flowed really well. I feel like because both of us didn't have any mutual friends, and like we lived in such separate universes, there was really no need to like filter or like hold back. So I think we were just very open, and we like literally talked about things that I feel like traditionally you shouldn't talk about on your first date. I think that our first convos was like, oh yeah, I actually got out of a relationship 2 weeks ago. And then he was like, yeah, I was actually in New York recently with my ex. And then I was like, like that's kind of a yellow flag. But then I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to hear him out.
But why is that a yellow flag?
Because you broke up with your ex-girlfriend 2 weeks ago, and now you're on a date.
I was checked out earlier, I think.
Yeah, which is like that's why like I heard you out, and then you kind of explained the whole situation. I was like, okay. And then the whole time I thought he wasn't interested because like we were actually sitting at like a bar like this. My body language was like this the whole time, right? Because I was like trying to be polite and show that I'm like engaged in the convo.
Yeah.
He was just literally looking straight
At the Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. And then like even when he was talking, like he was just straight, like not even like turning his head to acknowledge me. And I was like, okay, he is not interested. And then the cherry on top was at some point, I guess
Maybe you can hold that.
the cherry on top was at some point, all of a sudden he was like, oh, I think I have boogers. I'm going to go get a tissue. And I was like, okay. So he went to get boogers. And he went to go get a tissue.
He went to get boogers.
And then he comes back, and then I guess he like cleaned himself up, and then he's like, oh, can you check if I have any more boogers? It makes me look up his nostrils, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. And he was like, oh, if you're lying, that's messed up. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Wait, at this point, what was going through your head when you're saying that? Like
Self-consciousness. My nose was itchy. Like it felt like there was something in there. Yeah. Even though I like really like cleaned it, it felt like there was still something in there. You know that feeling? When it's like still like itching. Okay, in terms of asking her, I don't know why I did that. I can't speak for myself back then. I have no idea.
This was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess I just felt very comfortable from the beginning, maybe. A little too comfortable.
Yeah. I think that was like the only main hiccups from that first encounter. And then it was like getting late, so we like separated, and then he did the like, wait, can I ask you something? And he left out this part, but basically I was like, what, just say it. He's like, never mind, like I don't want you to think I'm needy, like I don't want you to find me less attractive.
Why are you making me sound like that? Like I don't want to.
That's how you said it.
But as she was going down and leaving, I was like, hey, like never mind. And then she was like, no, what? And I was like, can you text me back faster?
Okay. I'll give you a different persona. You're like, wait, can I ask something? was like, wait, what is it? Like, never mind. Like, I don't want to come off like needy or unattractive. No, just say it. Can you text me back faster? And it was kind of like can you text me back faster? But I thought that was like cute slash funny, because I was like, oh, like he isn't prideful, and like he's shameless, and he's just like saying it.
Did that make up for the booger?
Well, yeah. So that when you asked that, it basically, because up to that point I was like, okay, he wasn't into this date. I think out of just courtesy, we stuck through and had conversations, which were like good conversations, but I was like, I don't think he's physically attracted to me, just based off of like the things he would do, say, and ask of me. But then as I was leaving, the moment he like asked me like, can you text me back faster, I was like, oh, okay, so you are interested in me. Okay. So then I felt better. And then that night, like, we ended up going to our respective homes, and then he was like texting me nonstop ever since.
And did you text back faster?
I did, because like I didn't have to, because I knew he was into me. I didn't have to be as like nervous, whereas before, leading up to it, like it was like a game, you know, like I can't seem too enthusiastic, but I also have to like respond.
I do have one question though. How long were you guys talking for before you guys met up with each other?
Literally like 2 or 3 days. Like we matched. He messaged me like right after we matched, and then I think I saw him like 2 or 3 days after. Okay. Yeah, it was because he said he was leaving soon.
Gotcha.
So more of a urgency.
And you texted 3 hours late.
Yeah, that's right.
So you guys met up the next day. How did that go?
We met up at the park, Union Square Park first. And then we went to get coffee. I want to say that day was fine. As we were saying goodbye, that was the incident. The right
forehead. On the way to the subway, we were saying goodbye, and then I like leaned in for a kiss, and then she like tilted her head down like this, and then I kissed like the middle of her eyes. She said she felt so awkward after that.
But basically what was happening was you said I tilted my head down, but it was actually I was going in just to give you a hug.
So you didn't even give a clear indication that you were going for the kiss?
There was no indication.
I thought we were having a good time. That was the indication.
Okay. Yeah. And then so that happened. And then I immediately turned around and just like walked as fast as I could. Didn't look back. I was like, I got secondhand embarrassment from myself. Because I was imagining like anyone I knew saw what just happened. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that'd be so bad. And then I was just walking as fast as I could, and then I was like, I don't want to think about it. And then he like texts me, oh, sorry if I made you uncomfortable, like, I didn't know, I was trying to give you a kiss, but I guess like you didn't realize. And I was just like, no, it's okay, thank you for apologizing. But I appreciate that he at least apologized for something that's kind of like, I guess if it was anyone else and they just try to brush it off, it could come off as like not respecting my boundaries. So I appreciate that part.
That day she learned that I respected boundaries. Kind of.
I think you're on your journey of learning boundaries.
I mean, would you say you were pretty different back then?
I think back then, from what I'm hearing of the experience, I feel like I was very carefree, and I didn't really think too much about what I was doing for the most part.
Gotcha.
Yeah. On the third day that we were hanging out, so Carl was like asking me different Korean words. Okay. And he really wanted me to call him like oppa.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't even know that word back then.
Yeah, you asked me.
I swear to God.
You asked me.
She's lying.
No. You're like, I'd be oppa. Because I was explaining like the concept of like Luna, Onni, and Oppa. And
so you didn't know? He didn't know, but you taught him that.
I think we were talking about Korean words.
Yeah. Okay.
And I told him how like there's that thing, and he was like, oh, so I'd be your Oppa then. And then I was kind of like, because like I have an older brother who's similar to their age. Yeah. And so like anyone who's similar age to my brother, it feels weird calling them Oppa.
Did you ever call him Oppa after that?
No.
Were you sad?
If I knew what the context was around that word, I wouldn't have said that.
What's the context?
There's no context.
What's the context?
I don't know.
Okay, and then
like it's kind of cringy sometimes, you know.
There was a time when like I had to go to a meeting or run an errand or something. Okay. And so he was like alone. And then I met up with him later that day. And I guess during that time, he was like looking up different Korean words and like Korean expressions.
I remember this.
And then like
No, please.
No,
so we were like just hanging out, like chilling. And then at this point, like this is when we were like already like catching feels for each other. We were having like really good time. It was maybe like the third or fourth time we were hanging out. And so we were like kind of in our feels, a bit more like lovey-dovey. But then he like turns to me all serious and he's like, Jen.
Kyle's not even looking at the camera right now.
He's like, Jen, 사랑해.
Wait, where was this at?
It was at the row.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're just gonna skip the whole Chelsea part?
That was the best part that he mentioned.
You shared that part already.
Okay, but like, what was your experience? Oh my gosh, she just wants to embarrass me on this.
Okay. So when we were walking down Chelsea, it was a really magical experience, like Kyle said, because our conversations were like nonstop, and then we just kept talking about how like, oh, like it's been so long since we found and met someone who we click so well with, and like just from like humor, music, everything, it just felt like it was like the right person, but like really bad timing. And it's like, oh, why do you have to live so far away? Like, it's not even California. It's literally Hawaii's in the middle of the ocean, so far away. And then at the time, he had no plans to like move to New York. I had no plans to move there. And also, like, I also thought about like, oh, he's not even Korean. Like, he's Japanese American, and like so many factors. And I was like, oh, it's so, in my head, I was like, it's so dumb and it's so unfair. And I kept saying like, God is playing games with me, because he was like, you know, I'm gonna give you such a good person, but then you can't have him.
Just a little tease.
Yeah. And so it was just like a lot of those feelings of like, oh, like, well, I really want this person, but I feel like I can't. And I feel like I can't be greedy and try to keep them around either, because I also feel like that would taint the whole experience. Because I felt like the whole reason why we were able to like be so authentic and open with each other was because we knew that there was like a expiration date, and so we were just very like, this is me up front, like take it as you will. You know, when you go back, like if we stay in contact, like that's great, but also at the same time, like if you meet someone, like I will like support you, encourage you, be happy for it. So like no pressure from either side. But it's like, even as we were saying that, we're like, oh,
So
like
you better not find that.
like I really don't want you to find someone, but I'm gonna say you can.
But we're both very realistic in that situation. Like,
Right. I mean, it makes sense. And this was before COVID too. So
Yeah.
like the remote job wasn't a thing too.
But yeah, I was still in college too. Like it was summer going into my senior year. So like my future was also very like unknown.
Right.
And then I had to like figure out finding a job. And it was just like adding this relationship into the picture would obviously be so much that I was like being realistic of like, it doesn't make sense for me to like try to pursue this right now. If it happens, it happens, but I'm not going to like go out of my way to like keep this person in my life. And then going back to the other parts.
let's just end the story there.
Thank you for watching BoriBros.
So basically after he said the 사랑해 part,
It's not even listening
I kind of
anymore.
just like went haha, and then like I was like oh
you didn't say it back.
no, because like love is like a strong word.
That's true.
And then I also didn't know if he was just trying to be like quirky by saying it in Korean.
I was, yeah.
Okay. Part of me also like was a little like like uncomfortable. I didn't know how to react in that situation.
Yeah.
Which kind of describes, I feel like, Kyle and I's dynamic. A lot of the times I don't know how to react to the things Kyle says and does around me. So, and then after he said that thing, 사랑해, he played Frank Ocean's song Ivy, and it goes, I thought that I was dreaming when you said you loved me, right? And then he's like looking at me. He started shedding a tear.
Are you enjoying this, Daniel?
Yes.
I bet you are. I bet everyone watching this is enjoying this. Because
So wait, what did you think when he was crying?
It was the same sentiment as before. It was just like, oh, like
This.
like I don't know what to do. But like, I mean,
She was in her
obviously-
feels.
No, my feelings were there too. Like I knew why he was like emotional, because I was also emotional, but I think mine was more like internal. Like I'm saying this as like I'm roasting him, but a lot of these things were reasons why I felt like I could fall for him. Because one, like, I think in my previous relationships or previous guys I encountered, one, a lot of them were Korean. And so they had a really hard time expressing emotion and were very like prideful of like, oh, I don't cry, like I don't show weakness kind of thing. And so when I saw like those attributes in Kyle, I was like, oh, he's different. Like he's not afraid to like feel these emotions, to like just be authentic and like not even care that I might cringe at the fact that he's doing all of this, right?
Yeah.
And so like even though from an outside perspective, all of this might be like, oh, like what are they doing? In the moment, it was very like, for me, it was like, wow, like, oh, like I think I could see myself really going for him.
Right.
Like, I could see myself with him.
Which was harder, right? Because he was going back to
yeah.
Hawaii.
And so everything that we were doing, like each moment we were spending with each other, it was like even harder and harder. And so like literally, I remember the last day or two that we were hanging out, I was just like, any word about like him leaving, I would just like tear up.
Or like whenever it's like brought up, we would just both like get really quiet.
And then I would like
Did you guys both think that it was the end of the relationship?
Yeah, we weren't expecting anything further after that.
after he went back the first time, we were talking, but then it was obviously just as like friends, because we had literally said like, oh, there's no pressure to keep this going into pursuing this into a relationship.
But the feeling was definitely like pretty much still there.
Okay.
That we like to talk to each other every day. I said this before, but I think I knew she was the one because I look forward to talking to her. Every day I would text her in the morning, go to work, text throughout the day, and then as I finish work, she's pretty much about to sleep. So I just get in whatever I can. Yeah, what about you?
I like that I didn't feel anxious with him, which was different from all my previous relationships. Similar to what we said before, like Kyle is very just transparent. So I didn't have to overthink anything. Like if he said he liked me, I knew that that's actually what he meant. Whereas like I think a lot of the other guys that I was with before, I could never trust it. So I think the fact that I always just felt really calm and peaceful when I was with him or talking to him was like, oh, this is what like a healthy relationship feels like.
And I actually surprised her for her birthday in October.
So you came to visit New York from Hawaii.
The day that I left, I was telling her like, oh, like I'm at a work event right now. So if my phone is cut off, like just know that I'll text you back, but I might not be able to.
Yeah.
And then...
How long is the flight?
Oh, like 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you left when I was about to go to bed.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he was flying in when I was like asleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I could kind of tell he was up to something. He's just not a good liar, which is, it works out. It makes life easier for me. Oh, but one thing he didn't know was basically like my mom wanted to visit for my birthday. And because I didn't know technically that Kyle was coming, I was like, yeah, you should come. And so... So they were there at the same time, which was how he met her, which we can say this for another time, but it was really awkward. So it was like when I woke up the morning of my birthday, I actually had class that morning, but I like was like, it's my birthday, I'm not going to go to class. And then my roommate came in and was like, oh, I have something for you. And then it was a card and it was like from Kyle. So I was like, okay, he's either here somewhere or I don't know. But I was like, okay, I think this confirms that you're here. And you had your location off. So I was like, okay, he's definitely here. And then in the card, it was like, oh, like, I want to ask, like, if you want to make this official. And I was obviously like, oh. And then I was just, like, kind of in bed, like, taking it all in. And then my roommate was like, oh, you should come out. Like, we made you food. And so I was like, oh, okay. And because they had made me breakfast. And I was just, like, looking. And then we had, well, we were so, like, cheesy back then. But we had our song.
Okay.
And then I had it as my ringtone. And then she was like, oh, I think Kayla asked me like where my phone was. And then she was like, oh, like, do you want to try calling him? And I was like, okay. Because I had told her, I was like, is he here? I was like, his location's off. Like, it's a little sus. She's like, you should just call him. So I call him and I hear his phone like in or like near my apartment. And that's when I'm like, and I'm like running and opening the doors. I was like, where is he? And then he was outside. And it like, I don't even know how to like explain that feeling. It's like even though I like kind of felt like it was gonna happen, the moment I saw him like in front of me, it like felt unreal because like we hadn't seen each other so long. Didn't think I was gonna see him ever again.
Yeah.
And it like made our relationship feel a bit more like tangible and like, oh no, we can actually make this work.
Yeah, I'm remembering.
Any funny stories from that trip?
No, I think that trip was a little more
Like serious, I guess?
less. It was probably still really cheesy, but
I mean,
There was.
what?
There was.
No, what?
There was. Okay, so basically, because my mom was there, they like overlapped some of the days.
Yeah.
So the days that my mom was at my place, he was somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And the place he was staying at was near Union Square.
Okay.
And for context, if you're not from New York, Union Square, there's like just a lot of things happening, and sometimes there's like people who are like rapping in circles, doing like, is it called ciphers? And so basically, he was like texting me how like he was on his way back, he like ate halal, and then he was walking around the park and he saw a group of people rapping, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And he was like, yeah, I spit some bars.
Okay, like I'm in New York and it's like a new experience. Like when you're like first come to New York, don't you feel like, I don't know, like you're set free or something? Granted, like you came during COVID. I came before COVID.
Right. So people are outside.
They're not even thinking about that disease or anything, you know, like when I came, I just felt amazing.
Would you like to spit some bar for us one day?
No.
Maybe we'll have a whole intro song from Kyle.
Oh.
Just transitioning from that, how long was the honeymoon phase between you two?
So for context, we were long distance for about a year, and then when COVID hit, I ended up going to Hawaii to live with his family for about 6 months.
It wasn't supposed to be 6 months though. She was only gonna stay for like 1 month.
That's because we thought COVID was gonna be over in a month.
I remember reaching out to her because I was visiting New York at the time, and she was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in Hawaii.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, all right, I'll see you then when you come back.
Never came.
She never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a year into our relationship plus 6 months in Hawaii. I think it was still honeymoon. Definitely towards the end of our time in Hawaii, we were getting a little. It was slowly fading, the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to say that our love was fading until we played Catan, but once we started playing Catan, it started getting rough.
We got into so many arguments because of Catan.
Oh my god. I mean, that's how it is.
I know. I'm just trying to win. Okay.
He doesn't let you in.
No, he's just really brutal.
She's
like,
good at it. She's good at it.
We had a double date with his brother and his girlfriend.
Okay.
And like the way his brother would play with his girlfriend in Catan, like go easier. Like if she needs
Gives you resources.
Yeah, needs a resource. Would trade. But then with Kyle, it's like no. Like he would like sabotage me. Like
I sabotage everyone.
He doesn't care.
Not just Jen.
But then I was like, oh, like why can't, like if your brother can do that, like why can't you do that for me? And he is like, oh, it's because like I respect you, like you're really good at the game. But I'm like, no.
She was really good though. She was very good. But
anyways, I think living together in Hawaii for 6 months, and we basically both didn't really have friends there because all his friends moved out of the city or out of the town. It was just us hanging out with his family every single day.
yeah.
That like, basically got to us, me more so.
Yeah, I mean, just being at home with family for a long time, it's a lot.
Right. So did you guys get to have like your alone time away from the family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we would drive across the island, go to beaches sometimes. What else would we do? We went to North Kohala, had some ice cream.
Very detailed.
Yeah, very detailed.
We basically did that like multiple times.
Yeah.
Because that was, there wasn't that much to do. There's a lot of like nature stuff, but not a lot of activities.
Jen felt like a little guilty about staying so long too. She felt like there was an obligation to like do things around the house or like start to give back somehow.
Because I'm so used to like the Korean
culture
of like what's it, shiomoni, shiabaji.
It's like your mother
like in-law.
Yeah.
So I was like ready to like serve like at your service, like I will cook and clean, like, but then because they were so chill, it made me even more nervous because I was like, I don't know if they're just being nice or if they're like expecting it but just not saying it, and if I don't do it they're actually gonna get upset. So I was just like really like in my head about all of that.
But my parents are very chill. Like basically the most I'll ask is to help clean the yard every now and then.
Yard.
That's the hardest part, though.
Yeah,
his lawn is so big.
It's not even dishes. It's like, can you clean the yard? One thing for you, Jen, is you were surrounded by him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys ever had an argument or like disagreements, like how did you try to like not like have your own space? Like you basically like were surrounded by the Kosakis.
Yeah. So that was actually something I brought up to him, because at a certain point I felt very suffocated. Like obviously I loved his family. I loved that I was spending time with him in Hawaii during the pandemic, and I'm like I think I was very lucky. But at the same time, like you said, because I was in his home, even if he would do things that would upset me, I couldn't really express them. And so I was like repressing to the point where I felt like a little lonely. I felt like I couldn't say anything, voice my concerns. I also didn't want his parents to like overhear us arguing. And so I felt like I was tiptoeing until the point where I like basically dissociated and exploded on him.
That was scary. That was really scary.
I
was like in bed, like in my underwear.
You went in your underwear?
Oh, I don't know. It felt like it.
Just pure naked.
Just full vulnerability. Like,
yeah.
It was scary. That's what happens when you build up anger.
Yeah.
Though.
I was having like a panic attack, and then the houses don't have windows that close all the way. They're like always open. So like from one room to the other, you can hear like conversations and everything.
Okay.
And like the room we were staying in was right next to the kitchen where his parents cook and do dishes. So if we were to fight,
they would
would get a live stream of the whole conversation. So it's like when you're upset and you have to like whisper like, "Hey,
I'm upset,"
and then I dissociate. I'm like, yeah.
Were you like screaming at him?
No.
It was a different kind of.
No, I couldn't scream. So
it's like whisper, but
it's like very repressed anger. But because it was so repressed, I was basically like freaking out, hyperventilating. I was like, I don't know if you've experienced dissociation, but it's like I felt like I was not in my body anymore kind of thing. Because there's just so much negative energy running through, and I couldn't express it.
You should have just let her win in Catan.
I did start to, right?
After that?
No, not really.
One thing that I realized recently, especially like from talking about it so much with Kyle, is that I feel like I was holding everything in to myself as well, because I thought that was the right way to show love, right? Just accepting them for who they are, and not trying to change them or anything, but basically like even if I had a problem, I would just like be okay with it or try to be okay with it. And then that kind of built on, and we didn't really communicate if we had any problems, and like only time we would argue about certain things or talk about certain things is when we argue. So I think that just kind of built like that notion where we only get things solved when we're like angry at each other, and it just eventually didn't work out. But how were you guys able to kind of communicate that out and meet in the middle ground?
I want to hear your answer on this.
I think when we were living in Hawaii, it was definitely hard. Even when we tried, it was hard for me to mentally because he said like, it doesn't matter, like don't care that you're in my family's home, just like tell me if things upset you. That's like easier said than done. Obviously I'm still literally under their roof eating their food.
Hey, she would cook for my family quite a bit too though.
That's good. But still like they were doing so much for me, and I felt like I was overstaying, so it was very hard for me to do that. But obviously like I think the longer we were in Hawaii, like I got to a point where I was like, I can't hold back. So I would just like express it. But I think more so like when we got to New York and we got to kind of experience our relationship and how it is now, I still tend to like bottle things up. When I not explode on Kyle, but when I get to a point where I have to finally express that I'm upset, usually Kyle thinks I'm upset because of the thing that happened directly in front of him. But for me, it's like, no, that was just like the straw on, the straw on the camel's back. But there's actually other things leading up to it. Yeah. And that's why. But like for him, so then for his perspective, it's like, oh, this isn't a big deal. Or like, I don't understand why your level of emotion is coming from like this specific thing. But I'm like, no, it's because something that you've been doing for the last like 6 months is like finally catching up to me, and I'm saying it.
Opening the cabinet door and not closing it.
Yeah, all those things are like little things here and there. And it's like at the time, like I usually, as it's happening, I don't even realize that I'm bottling it up because I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. But then it happens again. I'm like, it happened again. But also, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, next. And then it just happens over and over to the point where I'm like, I can't. And then I think more so recently, it's definitely been like trial and error. I think I've gotten a bit more expressive. It still takes me a while for me to finally communicate.
So you guys were dating for the past 3 years. Was there any moments that you guys thought it wasn't going to work out or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it kind of happened somewhat recently. I was like going through a lot of internal stuff. So I'm turning 25 soon. Okay. And like because it hit me, I was like, oh, I'm no longer early 20s.
That's how exactly I felt.
Yeah. And like I honestly, because COVID happened when I was like 22, I still feel like I'm stuck at 22. And like the last few years, because it was like I didn't get to really like live the post-grad life that I had thought. It feels like I didn't really do much. And so this past spring, I was like reflecting, and because like Kyle and I also are in a long-term relationship, this is the longest relationship I've been in. Okay.
By far.
Yeah, I think my last one was like less than a year. There was just a lot of like feelings of like self-doubt and also questioning like, is this right for me at this point in my life? Like, am I getting too serious too early in my life? Should I have been investing more in my girl friendships? Should I be doing more as a single person and developing more on my own? And am I like not giving myself that opportunity to grow because I'm in this relationship? And there wasn't anything about Kyle that I was doubting, but it was more so just the fact that I'm in a long-term relationship. I was just thinking about and seeing all my single friends on social media, and like I would see them going out on the weekends, living very spontaneously. And honestly, like I wouldn't want to do that even if I was single. Like I like being home and stuff. So like, but just the fact that I was seeing all my friends do all of these things, I kept getting in my head about like, oh, but I wonder, like, how would I have been if I was single? Like, would I have matured more? Would I have grown more? Like, I wonder what person I would have been in the dating scene. Not that like I'm looking for another guy other than Kyle, but it's like, would I have been like, I don't know, all of these different things. And like I was communicating these things to Kyle, and obviously it didn't feel good from his perspective to hear that. And he did ask like, so what do you want to do? And obviously I didn't want to like break up with him, but at the same time I asked him to give me time to think through it. And it took me a long time to process. So from his end, he was getting kind of in his head after a while.
Like how long?
Like a few months.
A few months to wait for her to decide if she wants to still be with me, essentially.
So like, were you guys not talking or?
No. Everything was still the same.
Okay.
Kind of. It didn't feel like exactly the same. It still felt like there was like this like overarching kind of lingering feeling of she might leave me. Yeah.
No, but I felt exactly the same way actually at the same age as you were. And, you know, I didn't end up, continuing the relationship. So I know that perspective. But I think Kyle does let you like explore that like thoughts, I guess. And you were being communicative about it, which is the right thing to do. And Kyle was understanding to wait for a couple months and things like that. So, I mean, knowing you guys right now and knowing y'all's relationship right now, I think it ended in a good result, right?
Yeah.
I think after the waiting period from his end got longer, I think he was getting more nervous. Yeah. And so we were actually fighting a lot more about small things. And in the middle of one of the arguments, I think he brought up the point about how like it's slowly getting to his head about he doesn't know if I actually want this relationship, because he knows. And he said like he's even thinking about like marriage, like, but then if I'm not there, then like he's just in this like weird state. And so that's when I realized, oh, like it's not, what I'm doing is not fair to him. Like if it was the other way around, like I probably would have gone insane from like just not knowing and the anxiety. So that's when I said like, oh yeah, by the way, like I haven't really been thinking about any of those things anymore. So I think I'm at a good place now. And then he was like, but what you think you're in a good place? Like, does this mean you still want the relationship? And I was like, yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like out of nowhere, like random day.
No, I think there was something. There was like, we got over a fight, or like we came up with a solution, or I like asked her about how to approach situations where we get into arguments. It was something that led to her that we really like talked it out and like hugged it out and made her feel good.
So my biggest thing was I want to invest more time with my friend girl relationships. So I ended up having a lot of time apart from Kyle. So like I would purposely hang out with my friends without Kyle, because I think up to that point we were doing things as a couple, and like my friends love Kyle, so like whenever they invite me, they also invite Kyle. But at a certain point it was like I need my own social life, and so kind of made that more of an effort. Kyle also promised to not ask like, can I come, because then I always feel guilty and I feel like I'm stuck in this middle. So like he gave me more space. He also met you at the same time.
Oh, this was recent.
Yeah. It was like this end of spring into the summer.
Okay.
So it's like while we were doing that, good thing he met you, because then like he had someone else to hang out with. I was hanging out with my friends. Went on a girls trip. Like really investing more in my female relationships. I also figured out more of my like friendships and stuff. And and I think all of that together, just I felt better. I didn't find myself thinking about like, is this the right thing to do? Like, should I be doing it? Obviously I should have communicated as it was happening, but it wasn't like a step-by-step process. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm better.
Yeah. I think I'm really confident in this relationship because I've been in many relationships. Not like many, but like...
How many?
4, I think. And so I got to experience, because I'm a serial monogamous. And I got to experience like what each relationship was like. And with every relationship, you learn about what you like, what you don't like, and what you want for your next relationship.
Right.
I think with this relationship, it really checked off all the boxes for me. And that's why what I talk about when I ask people about their relationships when they're having trouble is I talk about relationship maturity. My idea of relationship maturity is how long you've been in relationships, but not only how long, but the quantity of relationships that you've been in. Because every relationship that you have is a different experience. And so because Jenn didn't have like a ton of relationships and they weren't long, I understood that her relationship level of understanding was like not as high as mine. I understood when she was going through those thoughts of like, oh, I don't know if I want to be in this kind of relationship or not. Because like, what can I say in that instance, right?
Yeah.
If she wants to leave and she wants to figure something out, then she can. But I just told her that this relationship is something that I've never experienced and that is important to me. And that's why I would never even think about leaving her, because she just really checks off everything.
So I guess kind of looking back through this past years, what are some things that, you know, anyone else can do in their relationship to keep the relationship healthy? And, you know, what are some things that you guys plan on doing to keep this going as strong as it is right now?
I know this is like basic, but communication, I think it's the biggest thing. Also becoming comfortable with like how your relationship evolves. Obviously, like the stories I shared from when Kyle and I first met, that was like a form of love. It's not how our love is now, but the love is still there. It just is manifesting differently. But not to get too caught up in the change and be like, oh my God, we're not as passionate anymore. We're not as like affectionate anymore. Like, is our relationship dead? Like, no, it's just evolved in a different way. Like now we're like just best friends. So we're comfortable. We really like, he knows me better than anyone else. Like I don't trust anyone as much as him. And that's like, I would have that rather than like constantly being in like honeymoon phase with new people all the time.
Right. I mean, one thing that I realized too is that, you know, a lot of people seek out for that honeymoon phase, like those butterflies that you get. And when everything is good in the relationship, there's no argument, there's nothing to dislike about this person that you're falling for, right? But I think one thing to mention is that, you know, the importance of being comfortable with each other enough to like communicate every problems and being understanding with each other. That's something that I feel like I wasn't realizing when I was in a relationship. I think it's just kind of built on throughout the relationship of my angers and things like that, just because, you know, at the time, what we thought was right was just holding it in and, you know, letting that person be who they are. And same for myself. If there was something that they didn't like about me, I might have thought like, oh, they should still accept me as who I am, because it is who I am. But I think looking at you guys and talking about this situation, I do understand that I am learning a lot, right? As a single person, I am not lonely.
Yeah.
As a lonely single person.
You know, like I am learning a lot in terms of, like I told Kyle that I feel like I get to see the perspective of being in a relationship, but also like be single, I guess, if that makes sense. Kyle, was there anything that you wanted to mention about like how do you guys want to keep this relationship going? And
I think one thing that's important is having like a common goal and common morals and compromising. The reason why people nag people is because people don't like fail to continue being consistent in their habits.
right.
And in order to make something a habit, you have to work at it. And I think in a lot of ways, like relationships are like habits. Like you have to figure out like what are the things that piss Jenn off and what are the things that make her happy. And then like start to think of it more as like patterns or ways that you can keep her happy. And I think she does that for me too. Understanding each other's boundaries, because we're still learning about our boundaries too.
Right.
And like just being open to continuing to be able to compromise, I think is very important. And as long as you put in the effort and like continue to put in the effort to make those changes, I think that's what will lead to a good relationship.
Just to understand that for viewers, not every relationship is going to be perfect. You know, not every relationship is going to work out either, but it's just a matter of fact of finding the right person that are willing to accept you and willing to compromise and meet you in the middle.
Right.
So that's it for the singles therapy for me. It was nice talking to you guys, finally knowing the both perspectives of each like story. Yeah, thank you for listening to our episode today. And this was BoriBros.
Bye. Love you.
Love ya.
Love you too. Why are you guys always laughing at me?
Because you're always awkward about how you say it.
Oh, I should have said 사랑해.
And cut.
Bye-bye. All right, we're done.